Black Rifle Coffee, baby. Breeding fuel.
John, I'm just gonna let you kind of give your brief or not so brief background here to give a little bit of context as to how you ended up here.
I ended up here. Thank you for having me, by the way.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it. I am a Secret Service agent or retired Secret Service agent, about almost 23 years. Non-traditional. So everybody thinks Secret Service agents more and wearing a suit and tie, following people on an earpiece. I spent 15 of those years in special operations, so specifically a counter assault team. So I started off in the Newark field office, running around trying to figure out what exactly a Secret Service agent is. I'm not really sure what, to this day, what one is now, Sue. But and then I was privileged enough to do 15 years special operations, and then the last 2.5 years I was in the dignitary protective division, where I was running around foreign heads of state and learning about all different cultures and stuff. So that was a good time too.
Yeah, and you were just talking about how, or the pace that Trump is running at, compared to some of the other presidents that you've served under, in this term versus his last term, and what's that looking like versus both the 45 stint and versus a couple of the other ones that you've been a part of?
The 45, I was operational during the 45, so I got to see him. I was around him all the time. It was nonstop. He'd get up early, work late, and his pace is, and I don't know what fuels him, but he just doesn't stop. And now it seems like whatever pace that was in 2016 to 2020 is amplified. So just from my perspective now, where I am in the dignitary pool, we bring him all these heads of state that he's meeting with, and he'll jump from that, run up to the Capitol, come back down, sign an executive order, run somewhere else, get on the plane, fly to a city. It just doesn't stop. It seems as if his pace is picked up from before. And the guy's an older guy, so I don't know where he gets it from. But yeah, good on him.
I know it seems like one, he doesn't age, and I mean, you said you've got a kid, and I've got a newborn, and I'm like, just thinking about those hours, I'm like, man, I'm tired all the time. How is he doing all this stuff? But
I think he's got a time machine. He had like 30 hours a day, 10 days a week. That's the only way I can explain it. So,
and how does that affect you guys? Are you guys kind of doing the same type of thing, no matter if it's 10 or 20-hour days, or do you really have to adapt to that increased schedule?
Every administration is different. And I would say this one seems to be different than the one that was 2016, only because of the different staffing models that we have. And the service is good at adapting to everything all the time. There's always something new that they'll give us it's like here's the mission, and it's something we've never done before. We have to adapt around it, because the protection is not, it's not like in the military. Just talking about from the counter assault perspective, it's not like a direct action that we can plan for and this is what we're going to do. It's more like we're at the mercy of his schedule. So it's always, we have to plan, and we do the best we can with the information we have to plan on what exactly his schedule is. And for one event, there's one team working on one event. So if he goes from DC to Cleveland, let's say, there's a team in Cleveland prepping for him. So there's a president's detail, special operations, there's all these other support units, people there that are planning it. But then he jumps from Cleveland to wherever, Las Vegas, and there's another team there. So you could see like how the manpower just changes and changes. And then if there's last minute trips, God forbid there's a disaster trip, like for a hurricane or something, guys are launched last second. They're looking for people, because you got people all over the world, the country and the world, planning for everything that he's doing. And then you get his last minute thing. So we're at the mercy of that, because he's got to go down to whatever the, I can't think of the latest disaster thing, but hopefully there's not one that's coming up, knock on wood, right? But that's kind of the way the service is, and the service is built. And it's for the president, the vice president, we get heads of state, extended families. It is nonstop, and it is like 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, nonstop. And there's a revolving door. There's no time off, right?
Yeah, I would assume so. And especially today too, like when you think about counter assault, the threats that you have to be worried about today with electronics and all these other devices, drones, versus what it was 20 years ago, I have to assume it's a completely different prep and planning that you guys have to be aware of versus 3 decades ago.
To this day, vehicle telematics are one of the things that right before I left, it's one of the things that it wasn't I was working on, I was just being briefed on a lot of stuff. And I never plugged my phone in to even my vehicle, just knowing what I know and how easily hackable it is.
Yeah.
So to maintain operational security is just that alone, let alone the threat, just for them to extract information, say them, whoever them is.
Yeah.
There's so much going on, and we have to try to keep up with it. And just in the middle of it being operational, traveling around the planet and figuring out what the next threat is, hey, bro, you can't plug your phone into the car. This is a rental car. We got to give it back.
Yeah.
Because it'll download everything onto the server or whatever. And people are like, what do you mean I can't plug them? I got to charge my phone. Here's a power pack. Just use this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just as an example.
You have to be so paranoid about every aspect of your life.
It is a large paranoia, and even just coming here and wondering if I shut my phones off and seeing like who's pinging me while I'm here.
Yeah. And what's that when you think about the Secret Service and how stressful that must be, both from a planning phase, the gravity of what that task is, protecting the president and other dignitaries, like there's so much on the plate there. There's so much bad that can happen. You've had a long career. What are some of those things that have really stuck out to you over the years as far as like what identifies someone who is very apt and able to do that job well?
Diplomacy is a huge part of it. If you think about it, the president's detail is stand next to the most powerful man on the planet, whoever it may be, in whichever administration it is the most powerful man on the planet, right? And people who displayed diplomacy and able to understand the political sensitivity of the environment that we're working in, right? Counter assault, it behooves us not to be seen, right? I always tell my guys, we're to be felt, not seen. So that's how we operate. Right? You're going to feel us, you're not going to see us. And people who are able to mitigate any of these political, pitfalls, let's call them, and because everything's on camera, when we travel overseas, how we conduct ourselves, not only while we're working, but while we're off duty. I mean, how many like international incidents have you read about? Hopefully you don't know many, but we can talk about it later, right? But
yeah,
the people who display that ability to do that, but then also have the ability to take the necessary risks while they're planning and not just shut down completely. Those are the people that make the most capable agents.
Yeah.
Right. Not people who are micromanagers who are just worried about everything. And at some point it turns into the higher up, the more authority you have, it turns into the preservation of like their position. And you kind of security starts going a little bit sideways when you forget why you're there. So the people who can mitigate that are usually the people who have the most success and have the best plans when we're doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening or watching the Black Rifle Coffee Podcast. Please allow me to take a second to pay the bills and let you know what we've got going on here at Black Rifle, or I could say the best way that you can support us. I hope that you are in the coffee club currently. If you're not, you should be. Every month, we ship fresh roasted coffee directly to you, free of shipping, and you can get in the club, get in a one bagger or one boxer for as little as $15.99 a month. Also included in that subscription is a whole section of the website for partner discounts with over 100 brands within that. Discounts on everything from firearms to protein to outdoors products, you name it. We have partnered with some of the best in the outdoor firearms industries. And if you want something a little bit more, there's always a little bit more layered within the coffee club subscription. And I'm talking about the exclusive coffee subscription, otherwise known as the Evan coffee subscription, because it was something he specifically tailored towards himself, because he wanted to drink different coffees from different countries every single month. And then it gives us an excuse to come up with a whole bunch of different branding ideas and concepts. Last month we did the Army 250th coffee. This month is not tea. And then the next month is just this wild design for the Secret Water Society. So go ahead, get in the club. It's the best way to support the brand. We appreciate everything that you do for us here at Black Rifle Coffee. Now back to the show.
That makes me wonder, how much are you guys studying, being briefed on foreign policy and the history? Like if you know the president's meeting with someone anywhere in the world, you could say, how much are you looking back into, like, well, here's the relationship we've had to that country for the last 40, 50, 100 years. How much is that playing into the overall strategy for how you guys are approaching certain things?
That's a good question. It's a good segue to where I am now, where every foreign head of state that he deals with, I have an intel brief that I get to read. God delivers it right to me, and I'd sit down, and if I have to go to Skiff and read it. While I was on CAT, and I'd say the higher up you go, supervisors are briefed on everything. I mean, they're the ones that are closest to them. When I was on CAT, the intel brief we received were mainly threat-based. A lot of the culture stuff wasn't focused on. Now, where I am, there is the cultural reasoning why he's meeting and things that we have to look out for. And it's like sometimes we can't send a female to do a certain assignment in a certain place because it just sets her up for failure and sets us up for failure. Just as an example, and if we don't do that, if we're trying just to give somebody an opportunity because we think it's good for them, but just put a round peg into a square hole, it just creates something that we probably have to do 4 or 5 times the amount of work just to fix afterwards.
Yeah,
there are better about that now. Right, especially given going through a bunch of issues that we may or may not have, right, the last 20 years that I've been there. So.
Yeah, because you look at those situations, like when Zelensky came to the White House, and it was like that meeting has been memed millions of times at this point. You read some stuff, you hear some rumors, and you just know that there's the actual story, the thing that's really interesting, none of us actually know about, and what's going on behind the scenes with, who's saying what to who to get this person to chime up and say something at just the right time. Not really a question in there outside of, I'm just curious as to like what it's like to have an opportunity to get a little bit more of a close look into the reality of what's going on there.
When it comes to the heads of state, to include all of our heads of state, what I remind people, and I'll never disparage any of our presidents. I love them all, whoever's sitting in that seat. It's kind of the privilege of our position. There's any Secret Service agent that's in it. I think you should, the sanctity of our position and his position, right? We protect the seat. But they are politicians at the highest level. So they're human. So even at a certain point, their human side kicks in. And when you see a lot of these interactions, they're genuine and they can't help themselves.
Yeah.
Right. So like the Zelensky one is a good example of like, that's what happened. And, there was a de-escalation of all that at one point, but as it escalated, that's how they are. I mean, it starts with appearance. If you showed up to the White House wearing a suit, it probably would have helped from the beginning, because right away there was like jokes that were there and people said whatever they said, and it kind of like there are beams in the background. Even while we were standing there, there people were joking around about it, but you know, they were saying like why he does it, but to understand where these heads of state often think that they're in the right, no matter where they come from, and to be a fly on the wall and just watch it happen, just watch it build up. We kind of know what's going to happen before we get there. So while we're bringing somebody over, we can tell and be like, this guy just says the wrong thing here because this is what he's talking about. And then, well, sure as shit, that's what happens. And the thing blows up and we kind of shrug our shoulders because we knew better, but it's not our place to warn anybody. Yeah. It's just kind of watching everything happen in slow motion. Yeah. When it happens. And then you kind of just like, all right, time to go. Let's do this.
Because you guys, when I say you guys, I mean the counter assault team have to be absolute masters of observation and be able to speak these languages of body language, of posture, of presentation in a way like very few people on this planet are able to do, right? And so how do you like hone those skills of observation to that point where you can like understand by the way that someone is presenting themselves to a certain situation that they're actually saying something by the way that they're doing that? And then, you know, it's interesting to be on a fly on a wall. Yeah. But that's a big part of what you do, from what I understand of what you do, is to be able to identify whether or not someone's a threat, basically, on how they're presenting themselves without necessarily having a conversation with them or seeing a weapon, right?
I think not just cat, but I mean, I grew up on cat, so I'm always going to say those guys are special.
Yeah.
Right. And, but everybody in the service in general, and we're around so many people all the time of all different walks of life, especially the more you travel overseas and you get to see all different cultures, personalities. We're all over the place and see how we blend into people, and just walking around and see how people just interact with each other. Of course, there's language barriers, right? When we're talking about different countries, but even domestically. And the problem is that again, it goes back to that political sensitivity, the environment that we work in around the White House, anywhere else that has a high sensitivity, high political interest of the public. Even if people are seen as you're just walking around and it's like, I mean, that guy's not wearing any shoes, let's just keep an eye on him. It's not like we can go over and arrest the guy for not having shoes, right? And it's different if a guy has a weapon. It's different if a guy is displaying weird behavior. And these kids, and I call them kids because I feel old now, right? I'm like 50 right there at this point, right? So they just need to have the courage just to say something and just push it up when they see it, because they are good because of the volume of people that they see. It's like habit forming. This is how people learn all this stuff. It's habit forming. 99.9% of the time, you just see somebody that's just walking around, just interested, just trying to do their job, whether they're part of a delegation or they're just a civilian. And then there's that 0.1% that makes the hair in the back of your neck stand up. When that happens, we just got to be able to communicate to each other and just make sure that everybody knows that this is weird. This is weird, man. Obviously, if a guy with an RPG walks down the street, that's an easy one, right? My daughter can figure that out.
Yeah.
But everything else is just by experience, just by the nature. Just like a police officer, the more the police officer works, the more he can identify something that doesn't look right. And it's when something doesn't look right, that's when we have to speak up. And I think some of the issues that we've had recently was we're kind of just not either we're call it complacency, or some people did, but I think it's a little bit more we're just not sure if we want to disturb somebody's schedule or not. They just don't say it, and they just have to be more vocal about it. And if you're wrong, man. If there's somebody that has a book under their jacket, then so be it. Not a big deal, but just got to speak up more. And that's like, it goes back to we talk about July 13th, communication. And because these kids are smart. These kids are observant. Cat guys are observant. Cat guys are smart. Sometimes we just don't make the decision. We make the wrong decision. And that's what kind of one little thing cascades into something big, as we learned that day.
Yeah. With July 13th and, what transpired there, obviously the Secret Service was under the microscope for a period of time and probably still is from your perspective. What has happened as a result of that?
A lot has happened and a little has happened at the same time. There's been a lot of measures. Right after it happened, I took a team up to the United Nations, and we were up there for about a month planning all this stuff. And one of my guys was part of a communications task force, let's just call it task force. And they were trying to upgrade and modernize our communications methodologies and networks. And they were part of a multi-agency group that was helping us. And it was great. And there was a lot of great technology, a lot of great ideas, policies that were coming from it. At the same time, our morale, not just internally, which kind of, just to be honest, there's a lot of things internally which are just, a lot of it is personality driven, right? And a lot of it is we're still not sure which direction. I say we, right? The service. But a lot of it is still like morale is still taking a big hit, partly because of the constant barrage from people that may or may not know the whole story. There's a lot of things that we probably, not that we can't say, but we shouldn't say, because it affects our relationships with partners that are outside, right? Of things that may or may not have occurred. And it is such a sensitive, it's just, there's so many landmines associated with it. And the wrong step kind of just undermines everything that we're doing to kind of just fix everything. And there has been a lot of movement towards the communications and technology and all things like that. And the director now has been pushing some programs forward in that regard. There is still the big morale problem. And these kids, some of the kids that were there, we were talking about the one, and I don't know how much to talk about him right up to, but he was part of there. He had blood all over him. He's handling the bodies, and he's just sitting there. This is almost a year later, and the kid's suffering, right? And we got to be better about that. That's the thing that hasn't really, in my opinion, improved. The taking care of the people that not only were there that day, but the rest of the service that's constantly traveling around the planet doing all this stuff. God forbid the next thing happens. And we just got to be able to manage that, because afterwards whether they're treated as part of the problem that occurred that day, and there were failures that day and there was good things that day, right? We'd only talk about the things that we failed at, and technically, and we always talk about failures and mistakes. Technically, we got away with one. There was luck involved, right? I'm not saying anything that nobody else on the planet can see just from the video.
Right.
But there were good things that occurred that day, and there were things that we did that were not so good that we could have done better. Going back to what has improved, our capability has improved. What hasn't improved is the way we've treated the workforce. Right, treating them like they did something so terribly wrong, and we're looking for scapegoats, and we're looking for people, and we're trying to point fingers. So I hope that kind of answers that. Yeah, it's a difficult question to answer without like betraying some guys' confidence and some guys' trust that's still working. But
it's interesting because you exist in an organization where no one knows about your successes. Like, you guys do a good job. No one knows about it.
You can't know.
You can't know about it, right?
Because if they know, they'll be able to figure out how we did it.
Yeah.
Right.
But, it's very loud and boisterous when there's a quote unquote failure, right? Like, it becomes very, very evident to the whole entire world. So from a mental standpoint, having to deal with that, I'm sure is difficult for you guys. And like you're saying, when it comes to foreign dignitaries or the presidents, it's still just human beings trying to do a job out there and do the best they can, you know. But for you, like you said, you're a cat guy.
True and true.
True and true. Will you kind of like how did you become a cat guy, and as much as you can speak to what that specific mission set is?
It is. I'm a goofy guy, right? And when I got to the service, I didn't know what I was going to do. You know, detail life. And one day, this guy named is Tony, and we worked the detail. I was the lead agent for a visit to the United Nations. The president of Georgia came. It was hilarious. We had fun the whole time. It was, you just laughed for like 2 weeks. But Tony was there. He was a former cat guy at that point. He was on the backside of his career. And towards the end, he's like, you should go to cat. And as I didn't really know that much about it, other than just seeing guys with long rifles walking around in black pajamas. And I started going towards there in 2007. I went through the school, and I made it, and I finished the school, and it was it's just a rough. It's a long. The school's a little different now. They've made it a little bit more modern. They've modernized it pretty well, but that's kind of how I got into it. Was specifically Tony. Tony passed away, right? And a while ago, which leads into a whole other conversation. But he passed away while he was on the job, and he was the one that pushed me towards that. And then from there, for like 15 years, I was on the team. And for those that know, the counter assault team it's a counter assault team is a group that functions to support the details, all the details, whether they're the president's detail, vice president's detail, any formers. They support them no matter where they go. And usually it's to just inauspicious environments, places that we're allowed to work, have long guns. Like we don't get to go to like the nice, super nice places. Like we don't really get to work in like London, but anywhere in Africa. And man, I've been to like 20 something countries in Africa, right? Those are the best trips because we're with the guys trying to preserve everything. And our job is to be that arm of the detail without getting too much into it that kind of fixes their problems so they can do their job. We support them as best we can. And our training is a paramilitary unit is what I'll call it, the best describe it. They are some of the smartest guys I've ever known in my entire life. There's a selection process. You go through the selection process. If you make it through the selection, they select you. You get to go to the school. And then if you finish the school, which is not guaranteed, you get to walk the halls of the Special Operations Division. Did that as an agent, just like a hump agent for about 7 years. I was an instructor for 3 years, teaching counter assault, teaching cat stuff, special operations stuff. And then for about 5 years, I was a supervisor, I was a team leader, an operations supervisor. So about 15 years of my career in the Secret Service was all that, traveling around the planet with my guys. And it was one of the most rewarding parts of my career. I'd say the most rewarding, like the chunk of my career, probably of my life, other than having my kid and getting married.
Yeah. Well, you brought up long guns, and that's my favorite thing in the world. So I got to ask, like, I'm sure
we'll go in the back and shoot a few dozen more ass.
Yeah, I would love to. What has been your favorite long gun that you've employed over the years?
We just use an M4 platform.
Oh yeah,
but just specifically being at the training center, it started off just firing like a blank fire AK-47, and from that I just built my own, and so it kind of just branched out. I love it's like the M4 platform style rifle that we use, but cat guys are pretty proficient in small arms. So, but I do like my AK-47, especially when we go overseas, and I just I'm looking around to see like what's going on, and it's just because that thing, since I've gotten one and built it, it's just so fun to shoot.
Yeah.
Not practically, like I don't think I'd take it on any kind of mission operation.
Yeah.
But just for fun levels, that's it. If my house is on fire, save my wife, my kid, the dog, and the AK-47. So
yeah. Well, if you're hearing some banging in the background there, I apologize. We're right next to Travis's half pipe that he's building, and the construction workers are on that. I thought they were going to pause for a little bit. If they keep banging, will you go?
Yeah, why don't you use this? No?
Huh?
Do I send to a ratio for that ratio?
If you don't mind, yeah, that'd be good.
Oh,
Yeah. 30 works, yeah.
you're good so far with all this, or?
Yeah. If is everything good for you? I mean, I'm trying not to press too much, and
I'm talking as best I can, and I don't know, but I think I'm just telling you the truth.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to say it without like in this I would say this too on camera, like I want the service to succeed no matter like what we say and what we do. Like we need to succeed. It doesn't matter like what your political affiliation is, doesn't matter what you believe, what your ideology is. We just can never fail. Never again. Like we should just never fail again. It's just not a thing. So there's some things that I know, like I never want any opposition force to know our techniques, our tactics, our procedures, right? I kind of don't want them. It's like I want them to kind of know CAT exists. They don't need to know them, right? Like felt not seen. That was my team. Like we say it all the time. It's like, hey man, we're felt not seen.
Yeah.
Stand off stage. If something bad happens, give them the good news.
Yeah.
Right. And that's I would say that. We're like, you guys ready? We'll give them the good news.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and that's what I'm cautious of. I don't want
I appreciate
stuff to like get out there. So I'm just kind of like leaving it to you to kind of go, and I'll kind of spur and leave a little breadcrumb and kind of go from there. But I'm super happy with it so far. I think if there's anything you just don't want to get into, just like
as you asked me, the way I deflect it too is because a lot of the stuff is already known.
Yeah.
Right. July 13th. I'm not the first person to ever talk about it.
Yeah.
Right. Like that story of that kid. I'm just trying not to burn the kid because he's got like some good PTSD from that.
Yeah.
He's a good candidate to just disappear.
Yeah.
Right. Like
yeah.
I mean, we've had a bunch of suicides, man. Like in 1 year we had like 3 agents. There's only like 3,000 agents, right? So, and how many more were close? That's just agents. That's not the uniformed officers, APTs, right? That's just, there's other people just doing bad stuff to themselves. It's the work, it's the tempo, it's the morale. And it's like, I'm also in peer support network. So people can reach out to us, but like we just reach out. We talk to a lot of people about a lot of like their issues. Hey man, let's go get a coffee.
Yeah.
So you see somebody and like, what's going on? And that is part of like where the service needs to improve, because if you improve morale, I believe leadership, like I believe leadership is not just you're going to go to a leadership course and see how to manage people. It's to make you a good person. Like, how do we make you a better human who I want to follow? That to me is like, and then from that, you turn around and bring us into the next level. Yeah, I'm following that guy all day. I'm not going to follow the guy that comes in and it's like, hey man, you need to shave your beard and you need to wear black shoes only, right? Because I don't know. I'm not good with fashion. I'm just making it right.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, I could go down that rabbit hole all day long, because it was the same thing in the Marine Corps. These imaginary standards that are written in no documentation whatsoever, but all of a sudden first sergeants and sergeant majors get a fucking twig up their ass about white socks in the middle of a combat zone. I'm like, dude, I haven't done laundry in fucking 3 months. I got a care package with fucking 12 pairs of Hanes. Like, I'm wearing these fucking socks, you dumb motherfucker. Like, shut the fuck up. This has nothing to do with how I perform operationally. And
enemy snipers are going to hone in on your white socks. That's kind of
it's just like it's so unfortunate, because as a young Marine or a service member, you start to question everything after you hear things like that, and that can have such a detrimental effect, like what you're talking about, in the sense of we need young service members to be committed towards getting into leadership positions and staying there for a long time, right? Like, that's kind of across the board in service, whether that be from a federal level, a military standpoint, local law enforcement. Like, we need good people to stay in these positions a long time. And they don't want to do that if they're going to be reprimanded and having to have stupid conversations all the time about things that don't matter to how they perform operationally and do their job well. And that can cascade into something that is detrimental towards any organization, because then you just start wondering, all right, well, what's really going on here? Why are we focused on these things? And then you completely forget about what the fuck you're actually doing in the first place. And so you were talking about leadership earlier, and that's and we have these conversations even within the Black Rifle organization, to where it's like we need coordination. Like, how can our top-down coordination be better? And for those conversations need to be had all the time.
For me, leadership isn't somebody coming in with a great idea and say, like, hey, look, I got this great idea. I learned it from whatever, and I'm bringing it back here, and this is what we're going to do. Leadership is your ability to influence everybody else around you to get the job done collectively together. And a lot of people don't understand that the position that you hold, right? I'll take the service, for example. The position that you hold gives you authority, and that authority can be used to influence people or abuse people, right? So you can move on to the next thing. The jumping around and doing 50 different things. And I'm sure and that is the case in the military too, where, how does this sound familiar? Where somebody shows up for a year and a half and they just tell you, and they just kind of slow everything down. Just make sure, don't do anything that embarrasses the unit, because it ultimately falls on wherever the commanding officer is. And then that guy can't move on to his next role, but everybody else is going to remain there. Which really everybody else is the one that's running your organization, not the person that's there. Those are just tourists. I call them tourists. So in the 15 years that I was on CAT, there were many tourists, right, that were bosses that would come through, and they would come through and they move on to the next thing. Some of them stayed a little longer than others, but really, like, the core people that run that unit, like right now, the guy who's the program manager, he's been there for a long time. He knows what he's doing. I mean, he beats his head against the wall sometimes when people just don't understand what we're trying to accomplish. He's a good dude, knows what's going on, cares about his guys. And he cares about the program because he's invested in the program, because that's where he grew up. He grew up through that program. And he's a good person. People follow him. Those are the kind of guys we got to put in those positions. And I think in like many organizations, and I equated this, and like I wrote about this too. It's like sometimes people have the audacity, I call it audacity, to just keep promoting and move up and move up and move up, because that position ultimately is what defines them. You read John Boyd's book, right? John Boyd, fighter pilot, World War II, right? Coined the OODA loop,
Yeah,
OODA loop, right? Of course. And he talks about you can do something or you could be someone. And it's like, if you be someone, you go in that direction. He's talking about it in the Air Force. And he's like, you're going to get a promotion, and you're going to get all these unhanded victories handed to you, and you're going to do all this stuff, but you're going to betray yourself and you betray your soul. But you get everything you want. Or you can go the other way and actually do something with your life that impacts everybody around you. You might not be the favorite. You're not going to get everything you want, but you're sure as hell going to get everything done, and people are going to love you for it, and they'll follow you to the gates of hell. And those are the people that we have to create. The leaders in this world, forget the service, forget like the military, right?
Yeah.
Specifically those two, but also the rest of the world. We have to create those people. Those are the people that will make sure that we're safe, loved, educated, supported, and then you become that person. I would tell everybody, train your replacement. I'm training you to take my job, and then you take the next one. There's the ego and narcissism involved in that, right? Because I don't want people to take my stuff. I want to be known as like the greatest person ever in the history of the universe. So like, I'm just going to show you enough so that you can do your job. But we have to like kill that humility and kill that ego. Sometimes in the service, people forget, and it's about their job. It's about that position that they want. And how many times I've heard that people looking at the list of stuff that's coming out, and they say, well, I don't want, nobody knows who the deputy special agent in charge of the Dallas field office is. Nobody knows that, right? And it's like, hey man, that's a supervisor position, and those guys need you just as much as everybody else, right? And it's like, I'm only going to do, it's like from Vacation, Cousin Eddie. He's holding out for management position. That's why he's not getting the job.
Yeah.
I strongly believe in that. Invest in your guys. It's something that I taught my guys, and they're out doing it now, and that's my impact. That's like my joy to see them just understand that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I'm fucking bravo. I think those are all great things. It's like good to hear it. It's like good American shit, you know. And
I like that. It is good American.
well, it's so like I was a scout sniper. You could kind of boil that down to like it's you're really watching out for your buddies, right? Like kind of the overall mission is to provide overwatch and surveillance and a little bit of reconnaissance. Like you're trying to guess, estimate, determine what bad things can and will happen, and then do what you need to do in order to protect your guys and be able to do that well. And you know, the mission set that you guys have is protection of, you know, the most important people in America, right? Like if we had to like dumb it down Barney style, so to speak. And so the idealism, the ethos that needs to be attached to those things seems like it really needs to be really well communicated, and everybody's got like you have to have the value system in place and really understand why people get promoted. Like it's one of those things, like the military is such a big organization comparatively to the Secret Service. Secret Service is a much smaller organization that's got a huge mission set that is so important for us as a country. Like you look at historically the collective conscious of the nation after a president is either assassinated or an attempted assassination, and that affects every single person in this country. Their mindset as to like, are we safe? Like you guys are the barons. You're the barrier for a lot more than just protecting important people. Like you're the shield and the safeguard for the whole entire country and what they perceive as safety.
When I was going through my cat career, and I'll self-admit I was immature, I was young, right? A lot faster, a lot stronger, right? Maybe not stronger. I think I'm pretty good now.
You know, the stupid courage phase, right?
But I didn't know what I didn't know, and as I move forward, it's almost like what I talked about, like John Boyd, but I made a choice, pissed a lot of people off because I wanted to be better. I sought out everything I could do to find out how to execute our job. I learned from the Army. Army Special Forces. I learned from the Marine, Force Recon, MARSOC guys. I learned from the Navy, not just DevGru, right? But just going down, just the East Coast teams. I learned from everybody, SWAT teams. I went everywhere, specifically when I was an instructor a little bit afterwards. And I just kept taking and learning and learning and learning. What I learned the most from all that wasn't the tactics. It was the culture of all those places. And I saw men, real men that would go out and do all this crazy shit overseas that 99% of like the civilian population will never hear about. And the courage and the bravery and the shit that's been done. And I said at one point, that's how I want to be. Just like all those people. And it worked hard, and I had where I fell flat on my face many times. And I had to get up and work through that, tell myself the truth. And then when it push came to shove, put myself in that arena that to use courage and bravery to be like those people. And then at that point, you become this person that you care more about everybody around you. You care more about the mission. You care more about the things that are important to this whole collective. We're talking about just not the service, not yourself, not your career, not just your guys, not just your mission, not just your president, but just everybody. And I say this all the time. If you want to be a Jedi, you got to bring your lightsaber, right?
That's good. I like that.
And everybody just looks at me, and it goes back to what we're talking about, like leadership. You want to be in. You don't have to be in the position. You don't have to be a team leader to be a leader. You don't have to be the director of an agency to be a leader, right? Or the president of the United States to be a leader. Or I'm just throwing out. You're a leader because you're a leader of men. You tell these guys like this is the right thing to do because it's the right thing to do. Not because it's good for your career or my career or his career, right? And this is how I teach my guys, right? This is what I learned, the person that I became. It screws up a lot of things because you end up standing up to people that make decisions on your career, and you have to make that decision, man, right? And if you can navigate those waters, can't be like me. I've done a lot of stupid shit where I've gotten up my bosses, I flipped the table over and told them to go to hell and walked out, and I'll be like, that probably wasn't the best idea, right? But I learned, like, I had my integrity, and then everybody around saw that I had integrity, and there was like, I'm going to follow that guy. And then the mission that we have, in order to get that done, those are the kind of people that we need. Those are the kind of people that these cat guys are, for the most part, right? Some of them look goofy. Some of them look like NFL like linebackers, right? But in the end, they're all the same. And it's like zero fail. I think there's a book, Zero Fail, right? Yeah. I haven't read it yet. But it is a zero fail mission. And just look at the mistakes that we've made, not just July 13th, right? Just talking about guys who have done international incidents like alcohol-related stuff. That hurt us, man. That hurts the service. It hurts our unit. It hurts the morale of the service. Like, we become a laughing stock. People point fingers. We start eating each other. The media's crushing us. We got to be better.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. We can't let that stuff happen. So those are the kind of people that we need, not just like for the service, but just in general, walking around here every day. So when people are struggling, you just be like, I got you.
Yeah.
Right?
Is there a time throughout your career when everything was kind of humming on all cylinders when you look back across time?
Yeah.
When was that, and why do you feel like it was really efficient?
The right people were in the right spot.
Yeah.
And the right leaders were allowing certain things to happen, allowing innovation and forward movement. right? And we're like learning, keeping pace, or maybe outpacing the threats that are out there. And then sometimes, and this is a real phenomenon, man, like a lot of people that may have been displaced from our program that come back, innovation is a threat to them, is a threat to what they did before. They don't understand sometimes. They have different ideology. Maybe they don't take it as seriously. So things kind of go ebbs and flows. And I'm sure the military is like that, right, for a lot of reasons. But there was a time, I want to say during Obama, like towards like the back half of Obama,
Yeah.
and the first half of Trump, things felt right.
Yeah.
Right. And then, not that they're not right now, but I think we're in a different place, and you could see it just in the media and stuff, that we're kind of trying to find our identity. It's kind of like an NFL team that doesn't really have an identity, and they just show up to play. Then you get that coach that goes in there and he just creates an identity. He's like, we're going to go out and we're going to be a physical team. We're just going to smash people in the face. So then you got the Pittsburgh Steelers, right?
Yeah.
And then, I'm not a Steelers fan. I just using them as an example, right? New England Patriots, right? Stuff like that. We're kind of like looking for that identity, right? So I think that's where it is right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you feel like, well, here, let me back up and ask. I think after July 13th, I think there was like some assumptions with the Secret Service. One being that they got bit by the DEI bug, and that somewhere along the way, things that were happening due to the previous administration were happening in places that we didn't expect that they would be happening. Do you feel like that's true, or do you think that was more just a natural evolution of leadership as to what you were talking about earlier?
I'm trying to figure out how to answer the best way. Remember, the directors are appointed.
Yeah.
And regardless of I believe there is political bias. That's my opinion. I don't have anything to base that fact on. So when we talk about DEI stuff, you could look it up, there was the 30 by 30. 30% of the agency would be women by the year 2030. That was one of the goals that was set. And I don't, I'm pretty sure that's public. That's public now. I'm not making that up. That just forces you to hire people that may or may not be qualified for the job. Right.
Well,
I don't know if she wants. I don't know if she wants me to tell you this, but like my wife's on the job. Right, she was on the vice president's detail. She was on first Biden. She's a PT instructor at RTC. My wife is a monster, right? In the good way. I love you. You're beautiful, right? Like in a good way, right? I'm dead now. But she wasn't a DEI hire. She earned everything she got. All right, and in fact, because she's my wife, it affects her career, right? But she's capable, she's smart, she knows her limitations. She's not going to be the first one through the door when we're taking down somebody or going into a room with a bunch of she doesn't know how to make room entries. She knows her limitations. So sometimes people don't know their limitations and they just want opportunities. And we put those people because of their I don't know how much of this I want to say, but there is like, because I don't want like the bad guys. No, it's just sometimes there is the optics. Like we want to put people in certain places so it seems like we're diverse. It seems like we're,
yeah.
And that's a real thing, man, right? And yeah, I'm just talking now.
No, you answered the question.
Right.
You answered the question. And then also and I think this is another tough question, but after July 13th, after the other assassination attempt, it was everywhere for a while, and then it seems gone. And with the other JFK documents getting released recently, you just think about these things. These are like a president assassination attempt or president assassination. I don't know. I think about it all the time. I don't know why. I just can't help it.
Me too.
Why haven't we like gotten any answers on July? Like what information about that dude or like how is that so prominent within everywhere and then it just goes away? And I mean, I know it doesn't for you guys, but I wonder if the same thoughts are not just rolling through my head.
At the time that I retire, there is still an active investigation. I think the congressional committee concluded in December, right? And
They initially said 90 days, I believe.
it's something. I watched that thing when they were like yelling back and forth at each other. It was horrible, and I was sitting there just. But there were findings from that, and that's nothing that. I think people are looking for answers and are looking for the smoking gun, right? And other than doing the background on the kid that was a shooter, right? And I'm not going to invoke his name, but other than doing that, what happened with the service was, again, like we talked about the good things and the bad things. The good things that we did, there were good things, like the response. Guys jumping up on the stage, covering them to shield them with their bodies, putting their lives on the line. My first guy that jumped up there was a cat guy, by the way, former cat guy. I just want to throw that in there.
Yeah.
But he's a good dude. But then there's things that we didn't do right? Like, and our counter sniper team, thank God that guy was up there, right? And that was a hard shot, because there was foliage in the way, and you were a scout sniper, right? And he saved the day. And I'm getting into, right, some stuff that I shouldn't get into, right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff that, and there was, people talk about just making mistakes or complacency. Some of it is as simple as that. And they're looking for this higher, like, smoking gun thing that occurred, and I wish I could give it to you, and just to put everybody's mind at ease. A little bit of that is like, we made a mistake during the advance process, just like everybody knows, and it's as simple as that, and we're not going to do it again. But and then there's like all the after stuff that you could watch the video and break that down. We can break it down together if you want, and I could tell you the good stuff and the bad stuff of that. And I was yelling. I was just like screaming. I'm like, as I'm sitting there telling them to do stuff, trying to like use the force to try to get them to do what I want them to do.
Yeah.
But there's the good parts of it and the bad parts of it, right? So if we did an after action on that, and we did like all the sustains and all the, right, the improves and stuff, and there's a bunch that are in both category, and just parts that are like abstains. There's a whole bunch of those, like, never do those again. And there is just a kind of like a simple answer, and people are just looking for a greater answer. And I hate to break it to you, but it's not a thing, right? Other than like background into the kid. Like, I want to know more about all that stuff. We've heard about all this weird stuff in his background. I don't know where it came from.
That's mostly what I'm talking about here.
So that's not so much the service investigating that either, right? Like that there's a lot other agencies that are doing that, and I can't speak on them. I have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, I don't think anybody does.
So I wish I could tell you, like, the Bureau now. I mean, Bongino is former Secret Service agent over the FBI.
Yeah.
Like, I hope that he's tracking that down.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things, from a citizen perspective, especially with how easily distracted we are. I think it's just important to like keep it on the forefront, regardless of what you do. Like, these things, these pebbles in the water, ripple effects. If we just like let all this stuff go, and it's like where our priorities at and our values at as an American people, if we're not like constantly like, hey, lot of answers on this. Why? Who is this person? Why are they doing this? Like, not even from your guys' perspective, but just in general.
I mean, we want
Accountability from the federal government.
we remind ourselves of that day like all the time. Right? We just one of the last details I worked. We're sitting there briefing, referencing July 13th, right? So we remind ourselves all the time that it's a real thing. We still don't have like the absolute answers, whether that's messaging from headquarters, but maybe I'm going to say that again, going back to like, they probably don't have the answers, or it's as simple as we said before. Because if it was some smoking gun thing, in this age, as like me knowing the news, looking behind the scenes and just listening to like all the big news outlets reporting on the news, I'm like, man, you're making more about this than it is. Sometimes it is as simple as it seems, and you're just generating the story that doesn't exist, or you're distorting it to meet what your needs are, and there is no more. Right? It's just what it is. That's why I can't watch I get my news from other places. I can't watch it because it's just not a thing. 3% of it is like, after that it just keeps repeating itself. Not in the best way, but I think in the specific question that you're asking, have you read the Warren Commission?
Not all of it.
So there's part of the Warren Commission that's just for the Secret Service. It's protection, right? So you don't have to read the whole thing because it's like 1,000 pages and it just reads terribly. It's just a hard read.
Yeah.
You read the Warren Commission and talk about JFK, and it's like all the things that the service did. As I'm reading it, and this is in the 60s, right? So I read it a few years ago, right? I read it before July 13th. So as I'm reading it, I'm like, hey man, like, some of the stuff we fixed and some of the stuff we didn't fix, but we kind of can't, because we still got to do things like that, right? I still got to send dudes out to do advances. I still got to send it, right? And it's like the obvious stuff, no open limos, right? That was a good idea. Or whoever made the closed limo that's armored, good job. That was a good idea, right? Like, but let's like, we just got to be better about not waiting for the catastrophe before we come up with those great ideas, right?
Yeah.
So, but if you read that, you can ask questions out of that book and say, like, do you guys still do this? Because this seems like a bad idea. And it's like, no, we've moved on from that. And then other stuff you'll read, and it's like, I can see how like this is a mandatory thing. There's no matter what, you have to do this.
Yeah.
Right. And it's kind of like the same thing with July 13th. There's some things that are going to come out of it that have come out of it, comms and stuff like that are much better and improved. And there's some stuff just the way it is, man. It's like, we messed up because of other stuff, and it's just that simple. And we're not going to do it again.
Yeah.
Right. Part of that, I'm not giving the guys excuses. Part of that is just being overworked. We're such a small agency, and the taskings are so huge. Guys jump from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing, and they just never stop.
Yeah. And it kind of has to be that way, right?
Just never ends.
When it comes to these high profile individuals, I assume if it was me in that position, like, I want to know that guy and like all the guys that are in the detail, like, I want to know them. I want to have a good understanding of who they are, they're...
As the president you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're the closer they are to him, he knows them more. Like Biden knew him more, Obama knew him more. Like the further out, like the cat guys, we're kind of on the peripheral.
Yeah.
Right? He's not. And there's been many times the presidents would stop and talk. Me as team leader, I just stand there, and of course all my guys defer to me when he stops, and he'll I remember one time the detail leader of his detail was like, he wasn't a former cat guy, didn't really like seeing us, but Trump walks by and he stops and he just looks at him and he looks at us, and we're all decked out in all our gear, and he's like, now I feel safe. It turns around, just thanks us for our service, and turns around and walks off. And the next day we were not as close as we were that day, right? So, we just got the whale eye afterwards, and you kind of, but they all appreciate it, right? They all come up to us, and like, I remember one time Obama came up and he's just asking us about all our gear and everything, and like the first ladies, they're great. They come over and they're appreciative and try to feed us sometimes, and it's like, oh man, no more cookies, right? Like it's like we can't eat that stuff on right now. But they appreciate us. They do. That's like a privilege of the position. You get to see their faces and their, right?
Yeah. I can imagine. It's
There's one guy. This is a funny story. One day, this guy, he looks like McLovin from Superbad.
Okay.
And everybody's like, "Hey, McLovin," and it was after he's out of office, is Clinton, and he hears it's like, "Oh, McLovin, it's perfect," right? And every day that guy was McLovin. He'd come in, "Hey, McLovin, how you doing today?" God, that guy doesn't even know my real name, right? But he knew him as McLovin, and he appreciated him every day.
That's so good. I love hearing those stories because it's like
There's a million.
again, man. It's just
They all
like
appreciate
back to the fucking humility of like we're all fucking humans, everybody.
They're all humans.
Yeah.
They just have their political agendas, and
Yeah.
you just, as a Secret Service agent, you just have to shut that part off of your brain. Because when you start being like, I don't believe in that, it's like, that's not for you today, right? Just go home and then think about it.
Yeah.
Right now, we just gotta make sure he stays alive.
Yeah. It's refreshing to see the dedication as you look back on history, and you like you look at Roman history and the amount of times that the Praetorian Guard had their hands in overthrowing one of the emperors or the leaders of the country at the time. Like, Secret Service never done that. We're fucking like, comparatively, we're way better.
Yeah, the way we're structured, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? You might get some people that have political biases that make decisions. Yeah, but that's as much as it's going to get. The service is not in a position to. Is not structured that way.
Yeah.
It can't happen.
Yeah, there's a
dealing where I am in the dignitary pool. It's like all these countries that get overthrown. There's like the last United Nations that I ran. I ran operations for the United Nations for a couple of years, and there were some countries that, as they were coming here, they would overthrow the government and then tell us that the new president or prime minister of that country is heading over, and it's like, no, bro, that's not how it works. And I had to go to State Department, just like, do we recognize these people as a president? We like, no, I can't do it. No Secret Service for you, right? And we would never do that. United States of America would never do that. It's not a thing, right? Not with the military, not got Secret Service. It's just, we're not structures like that.
Yeah. You brought up the Warren Commission, and all these other documents came out recently. Is there anything else that how do I phrase this?
I've never seen aliens.
You've never? Are you sure?
Maybe when I was going to say something.
What are your thoughts on that, with the way that everything panned out and the story that we were told?
For which
For JFK.
The more I read about it, I like JFK, right? The more I read about him, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff but he had the balls to move things down the field, right? And I like that, right? And I think that my opinion, this is John's opinion, not a Secret Service opinion, is that he was trying to do a lot of things that went against some higher establishment. Just reading what I read, reading the Warren Commission is like, at that time, the way we ran things, the expectation wasn't that somebody was ever going to do that. So like it's a different time. and I'm trying to put myself in that time in the 1960s in order to understand why our methodology was the way it was. Why wasn't it advanced to where it is today, right? And it just, that's, looking at like Oswald's background and where he was and the people that he was connected to, and where in everything that I read, not just in that book, but in just like a bunch of other stuff that I've read and just like my own research. And there were people that did not appreciate JFK's push for all this stuff, just from, international diplomacy, right? Like, his international policy of the United States at that time, all the way to his agenda to get to the moon, right? Like, he was the one that started that big Rice speech that he had, where he said, right, we're going to the moon. We're doing it not because it's easy, because it's hard, right? Never forget that. I watched it 100 times. And to push things down the field, right? I wasn't really a big football player, but I used,
You like that?
I use the analogies for some reason. I think just today, I think I was reading something about the NFL, but it pisses a lot of people off, and they want to take you out. I kind of, there's more to it than that. I can't just, like, in anybody that is alone, somebody who's alone, just knowing what I know about protective intelligence and these people that come in and try to do harm to all these various heads of state, to be a lone operator is, I think, very difficult. You're not going to survive it, right? You're the lone guy that's going to try to hurt somebody. Maybe you're successful, maybe you're not, but you're definitely not surviving it. So you're either set up to as a lone wolf, but you're backing somehow, and you're going to be used, right? My advice is, don't do it. Don't be that guy, right? But it just doesn't scream black and white, right? I know I said it kind of is hypocritical of what I said before about the July 13th thing, but again, we don't know the background. Like, knowing the background of the shooter in July 13th opens up a whole world of possibilities. Right. Knowing the background of Oswald, him going to Russia, right, Soviet Union, then Mexico, going to the Russian embassy down there, or Soviet embassy, right? Like, there's a lot of stuff going on there. Why aren't we talking about that? That's part of, like, that's to me, this is, what is it, 60 years later, that screams a lot to me, right? And it's like we have to be more realistic, not just dismiss things. In terms of that's what I'll say about all the JFK stuff that I've read recently. So,
it's one of those conversations you have to have with yourself about, like, whether, like, how it's fishy, but how fishy is it, right? So Oswald is killed by Jack Ruby right after the fact. All right, now we got to get into Jack Ruby, right? What's
the whole thing there?
What's Jack Ruby's background? And then you got to do the same amount of research and investigation into Ruby as you do with Oswald. And then Jolly West goes and interviews Ruby for a period of time, and then he loses his mind afterward. And you're like, okay, well, the guy that was part of MK Ultra had a morning with him, and now he makes no sense when he speaks. This is the same guy who dosed an elephant with LSD and killed it to see if he could spur violent aggression out of it. It just screams not black and white, right? And this is stuff that we're still putting together fucking 6 years later, right? And so, I'm a little naive in my thinking, like, well, why don't we have the answers yet, right?
That's hard to do, though.
It is. But, like, to me, contextually, like, we're talking about, how big is foreign policy and history to your job and what you're doing and the briefs that you're getting and how you're making decisions when you're going about your job. The same way with that, like, with trying to come to a conclusion on JFK, like, how much research, how much back stepping into the CIA, basically everything post World War II leading up to that point, what the CIA was doing, how bad JFK pissed off the CIA with the Bay of Pigs. How much does that play a factor in it? It just doesn't seem black and white, and that there's all these shades of gray. And
here's where, and I'll say this, this was my first, before I became a Secret Service agent, I just took it as face value. That was a shooter. And it was over. When I went through, I don't know what they do today, but I went through special agent training, right? In 2002. So this is, however many thousands of years ago. That's not that old, but like, we were never shown the Zapruder film in training.
really,
Yep.
never interesting.
It never showed us that. We watched the Reagan assassination attempt 1,000 times. We broke that down. Never broke down the Zapruder film. That was my first, the hairs in the back of my neck standing up. And maybe it's just because he died and we're just embarrassed and we just don't want to talk about it. Because like as humans, when we screw up, we don't want to talk about the things that we screw up.
Yeah.
It's like, remember when you ran over that cat? Like, I don't know what I'm talking about, right? And I just buy another cat and it looks like it and I put it there. Yeah. It's kind of like, that's what I thought it was. And now going down that rabbit hole, it just smells. Right?
It's all fishy, man.
That's weird.
It's all fishy.
That's
true or false, to your knowledge, did JFK call off some protection elements? I can't remember if it was the Texas National Guard or an additional Secret Service that he basically waved off the morning of. Do you know if that's true or not?
I don't know if that's true or not, but they don't get to say, the presidents don't get to say like how many people we bring in.
Yeah.
Right? If they do, and we listen to them, that's just somebody that doesn't understand. Like, they cannot sign off of protection. They are going to get protection, and we're going to do the job the way we do it, and they don't get to tell us how we do it.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't sound right.
Yeah. So is there in the process of,
I'll look into that, but it doesn't sound right to me.
yeah, I've read so much on the topic at this point. I was like, it's all starting to merge together, gay frog style.
That's what's like the internet. Like, the more you read, it's like, what's on the internet? It's got to be true, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think about, some of the extreme cases of this, of like Alec Jones. Like, that dude has had so much information coming to his brain for so many years, on top of whatever substances he's thrown into his body at any given time. Like, it's a mess. It's a mess, and some of it's true, and some of it's probably not true, and like trying to decipher all.
Probably doesn't know which is which at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we do that sometimes, where we create this story and we think it's true, right? And then as we move forward, this is the truth to us. Sometimes it's because we don't know better and we're filling in the gaps. This is like the messaging from, right? When my bosses would fail to message us, we filled in the gaps. Right? They only told us like the beginning and the end. We filled in the middle. That middle became fact. Right? To us, at least.
Yeah.
Because that's what we made it. All this stuff, I think, is similar. And you have to, and I want to take it as face value. Again, like July 13th to me was like, this is what happened. Me knowing how we work. So I have a little bit more, understanding of how we worked and the things where our hiccups were. But then the stuff that I don't know starts at that shooter going backwards. That's where, to me, it's weird.
Mm.
That's where, to me, it's like, well, but can somebody finish that investigation so we know what's going on, just like you said?
Yeah.
Same thing with the JFK stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Just reading the Warren Commission, seeing what we did 60 years ago. None of those people are around to talk to anymore. But then that's all the stuff, the Oswald stuff going backwards. Like, where's all this? This is the stuff that kind of will give me some more answers.
Yeah.
So to those points, regardless of who it is and what they're doing, obviously we'd like to have intel briefs and understand, whether it's through gathering information, informants, whatever the case might be. You have to be as prepared as possible. And if we are as prepared as possible, we minimize all that stuff regardless of who it is. And then afterwards, the investigation isn't an assassination attempt, right? That was a hot assassination attempt. It's something that we can troubleshoot because safely without even putting the guy in harm's way, right?
Yeah.
And we have to be prepared as possible. But all that other stuff, I will admit, does not look good. Right?
Yeah.
There's something
Yeah.
that bothers me too.
As far as whether it be JFK, July 13th, when it comes to what we're talking about as far as the investigation and the information gathering in these regards, because all July 13th, that's all on the FBI's shoulders now, correct?
Yep. For the most part, for other than internal stuff, right?
Yeah. In your opinion, is that the best way to go about business as far as the information gathering on this side of things, between that getting handed off to the FBI, or is there another federal institution that could be developed or specifically looks at these types of things so that the information doesn't get lost in the sauce, so that like we're actually getting the answers that we need in order to do the mission better in the future?
It's awesome. That question. What's the human nature, man? Like to cover stuff up. So if I make a mistake, in order for me to make sure to save face, make sure no one sees it, I'm going to cover it up, right? Whether I tell myself the truth and fix it, make sure it never happens again, that depends on my integrity. That depends on what kind of person I am.
Yeah.
Extrapolate that to a big agency, right? So if the Secret Service, stop at the Secret Service and say, we're going to do our own investigation, we're going to make sure that we figure out what happened that day and hold ourselves accountable. Just put it out to the public. How much of the public trusts us that we're going to have the integrity to tell the truth of every single step of the way of what happened and not distort it, just to make sure we cover it up just enough so that we don't get dinged to the point where it affects us long term. So I leave it up to you as like whoever's listening to this to just make that decision, then extrapolate that even further. And an agency like the FBI that's going to investigate it. So do they have the integrity just to publish the facts of what they find? Number one, will it be politicized one way or the other, right? Depending on what agenda they might have.
Yeah.
Right. And three, does the FBI have another third agenda that supports the FBI's, right?
Right.
Whether it affects them good or bad. Not that I know one way or the other. I don't have conversations about this, but this is like my perspective. And then you can just keep adding other agencies to that. At some point, everything gets diluted to the point where the truth is just what we make it. Right? The truth just becomes whatever you're sitting there and you just pick and choose what you want the truth to be instead of what the truth actually is. So going from like that drop in the water that just keeps radiating out, the integrity of every step of the way the investigation will dictate whether or not that it's like a viable thing or not.
Mm-hmm.
Like right now, I've heard so much stuff that wasn't true, that was in the news. Forget like on X. I don't even like I can't go on there and I can't read anything. There's so many aliens and dinosaurs on there that like
Yeah.
Right. Which I want to be true, right? Like I want a velociraptor in my backyard, right? But it's like I can't take a lot of the stuff seriously anymore because I know a lot of the truth of what happened that day. I take responsibility for, I wasn't there. I had nothing to do with it. But I take responsibility as a service agent, man. My hearts were like, I was just worried about the protectee, the former president. I was worried about my friends. I was like, holy shit, man, my friends, right?
Yeah.
Like they were like, Kat was deployed. They were up on the stage standing there. I was like, bro, right? I'm with you, right? Like I want to go back to my house, get my crap and just drive to Butler, right? Like right then and there. And then just me knowing what I know, I can't tell you like there's one good way to investigate this stuff. It's got to be, maybe the only way is like if the investigation is done with some kind of extreme transparency. Every step of the way, everybody knows what they're finding out, which is like almost impossible to do, right? Because that way it's like sunlight's the best sanitizer, right? So it's like if we do have that transparency every step of the way, everybody sees it, you can come to your own conclusion with the facts. And when somebody's like, there was a shooter up in the water tower, and it wasn't true.
Yeah.
But for the first 2 months, that was a guy up there, right? It was like, and it wasn't a thing. But there was a guy up there, and it wasn't a thing. And it was like, are you sure there wasn't a guy up there? There wasn't a guy up there, right? So, just that alone, the agencies and the polarization of this event alone, because people want accountability. So do we, right? We want accountability too, but it's got to start with that, like the ability to lay down what actually happened. And there's some stuff that we can't talk about just because it's going to make it worse if somebody tries again.
Right.
Right. Like it protects not just the service, but the people that are going to work and like whoever that is that we're protecting. So like the public's got to understand that, and just with some grace understand like that's like a thing too. But everything else I think is like what we can disclose. The only way you'll know whether it's all true or not is if it's like with complete transparency by whatever the investigating agency is every step of the way. And there's so much like, we can't do it, not a thing, right? And just remember, it's like, it's like a little kid that does something wrong. He tries to clean it up so nobody sees it, right?
Yeah.
There's probably some of everything I just said going on at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, you try and be realistic about what the expectations are for the radical transparency that you're talking about, but also being concerned with OPSEC at the same time. And it really just doesn't seem like, and granted, this happens, once every 5 generations or whatever it is where an instance like this happens that affects the whole entire country. But like I brought up the 90 days, like the former director was like, we'll have a report at 90 days. And that's nice to hear, because you're like, oh, at least there will be something that comes out. But in the steps of radical transparency, if you don't even know when you're getting the next batch of information, how are we supposed to trust that we'll ever get any information at all when there's not a system in place for us to be able to know when something is going to happen?
I hope it doesn't, but a lot of this stuff it goes into the land of shit that no one talks about anymore, right? And I hope it doesn't. Like I want answers too. Service people want answers too. Like we briefly in there, like there's a lot of us that the messaging that we get, we don't have all the answers, and then we just fill it in, and then we're like, oh, it was, this is what happened that day. Trump picked up a rifle and started firing back.
Yes.
Did that happen? I didn't see that.
He launched a bald eagle from the trunk of his limo, and it clawed the guy's face.
And out of, you say it 1,000 times, the one person's gonna be like, no, right? Like but yeah, man, it's a hard position that we're in. Yeah. That's why it's like, just make sure it never happens again, so we don't have to have conversations about whatever the event is.
Yeah. It just seems like if you guys have all the information, at least in the sense of, because you do so much, like every movement that
the show must go on too, though.
Yeah.
So there's a group of people investigating it. Everybody else, man, there's been thousands of missions since. Thousands, right? Not like dozens or hundreds, thousands for all the candidates, for the president, the vice president. This is Kamala and Biden, right? Like their last administration, then the new administration, then all the other people that we protect, then all the foreign heads of state. than the 140 something countries that came into the United Nations, right? And each one of those, depending on where they go, right? They might go to New York and then go to LA and then they go to, right? These are all different assignments. Thousands, right? All the foreign trips that these guys go on. Thousands of missions. It's hard to stop and focus on it and then for a year. So you have to dedicate people to that for a long time. And then you can't touch them. Can't be like, on Tuesday you'll work on this thing, but then you have to fly to Madrid to do this other thing, right? And
yeah, it's like when does the after action happen when you're working 20 hours a day every single day?
People did it, and to their credit, and they did a good job based off like what we can know. And I think, not to beat a dead horse, all this other stuff, there is a lot of like frustration by like just us. I remember like I'm a first line supervisor. That's as far as I got. Right. I'm not a big boss, so I can't tell you like what goes on up there. I interact with them a lot, but they don't like to tell me stuff because then because I'll tell them that they're wrong and they don't like that. Yeah. Right. So, yeah, that's
yeah. So do the when you're talking about like, let's just like Trump wants to go to McDonald's in fucking Virginia, and you guys get tapped to provide security. Is there ever like these moments in the process flow of that where you'd be like, no, we can't do this. It's too fucking dangerous. Or, specifically, I'm trying to wrap your head around the amount of work that goes into international trips is exhausting to think about.
All right, those are two different things. So something like if he wants at McDonald's, somebody will bring it to him. Right. Like
well, yeah, I was just using that as a broad example as far as like,
yeah, there's stuff that's like last minute, and they're good about messaging to him. It's like, hey man, not a good idea, right? Sometimes they'll be adamant because there is a political message that they're trying to show, right? Like, so they're like, no, we are doing this, so figure it out.
Yeah.
And that is, then it becomes like a whole, like, what's the thread on this?
Yeah.
Right. But if it's, some people are like, hey, you can't go for a walk, it's dangerous. Why? I don't know. It's bad. But we're still going for a walk. All right. Like, okay, cool. Or otherwise it's like, hey, I want to, jump out of an airplane with no parachute. No, sir, you can't do that. Right. You'll die. And it's like not a thing. And then they listen.
Yeah.
Right. Like if we tell them why, they listen. Politics are politics, right? At that level, all the way up top, there are probably that conversations that I'm not privy to, because we'll say stuff like, as Cap, just being like just one terrain feature away, just looking at everything and be like, what the fuck are they doing? Why are we doing this? And then you just tell the boss, and like, boss, what do you want? You want me to take you left? You want me to take you right? You just let me know. I'll get it done. Both is a terrible idea, but you just tell me what you want.
Yeah.
Right. And then we turn around and be like, all right, guys, this is happening right now, and we'll get it done. Right. Because that's our job. But it is like, the good supervisors message right away. They're like, they'll tell them like, sir, not a thing today. Right. And they're pretty good for the most part. I'm trying to remember like weird situations, and every single time the president's listened, is like, all right, let's go. Let's get out of here. All right, I'm good. And I think it's just like, we just have to tell him. That's all. If we just, hold on, can't do this.
Yeah.
They'll stop. And they're pretty good about telling them, and they're good about listening, because they don't want anything to happen to themselves. Right.
Yeah.
The big things are just like planned. Then it's like, no, we are going to go walk down the highway, because we're going to show whatever this, make it happen, and we have like a few days to figure it out. That's good, right? We use troop leading procedures, figure it out. But the last minute things are the ones that they usually listen. Like, no, you're not going out there. There's a guy with a gun.
Yeah.
Got it. Good. Done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just got to tell them.
Yeah.
And then the foreign trips, man, that's a whole nother animal, right? So on that job, I've been to, I think we counted, it was like 80 something countries, right? I would say that just about all of them were different, like the planning wise. The tactics that we use are kind of similar, but the planning and logistics of all of them were, I would say, all of them present their own individual nightmare of planning and logistics to get done. And the bigger the protectee is, being like the president versus the vice president, the more people involved, the more assets involved, the more shit that we have to move from point A to point B. Like, and we'll do stuff like he's going to, I'm making it up, somewhere in Europe, and then from Europe he's jumping to the Middle East, and then from the Middle East he's going somewhere in Africa, and then from Africa he's going to back to the United States. So the team in Europe will jump to the team, all right, there's a planning team in Europe, there's a planning team in Africa, there's a planning team in the Middle East. We fly a bunch of car planes over to Europe. We fly a bunch to the Middle East. The Europe team then jumps to Africa. You don't know where you are anymore, right?
Yeah.
You just knew that you were eating croissants one day and there's a boa constrictor, right? Like hanging outside your window the next day, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, how did I get here, right? Yeah. That's a whole bunch of stuff. But to guys' credit, all the problems that we've had were domestic, not overseas. And overseas, there is a heightened, like, and we have more time to do it because we know we're going. You can't just, very seldom is it like last minute. It's like, hey, in 2 months from now, he's going to whatever country. Send a team out there and they'll get it done. Domestically, it's like, oh, he's going here on Tuesday. You have 3 days to do this, right? Because it's a big disaster lab or something. Those are harder.
Yeah.
So they present, it's like a whole another set of problems, right? We do have a lot of other friends though when we go overseas that kind of help us. So the assets are artificially inflated.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. And so you're getting a book done right now.
I am.
What else are you touching on that thematically?
The book is mainly, again, like, I believe in leadership. Most of the stuff I'm going to do when I leave surrounds like leadership. I want developing a leadership course. And the book is how it talks about egos. It talks about how people go down this path of just assimilating to a culture, doing things that you know are wrong. And basically at some point, either you make a mistake or you've put yourself in a position where you've basically like sold your soul to whatever it is that you're doing, right? And you're in this like dark place, and it's how people can climb out, become stronger, resiliency, right? That's a buzzword now, resiliency. I don't really like use that word a lot. I think in order for us to have good leaders, you have to be a good person. It's not just walking in the room and just saying like, hey man, like do what I say.
Yeah.
And if you're strong, right, we condition our bodies, right? We have our tactics. We have all this gear that we have our weapons. We have our our physicality. You go to jiu-jitsu, you go to, right, whatever it is. I wrestled for a long time, right? How often do we train our brains and our minds to be strong? It's no different. And then you got these guys that are just beasts of a man, but they'll quit 2 seconds, right? They stop, they get tired. They don't know, they have no pain threshold, not physical pain, but mental pain. And the book is like my adventures through the service, whether it's just like my perspective on things. It's like how to bypass ego. I have a bunch of kids that I talk about, like they were shooting, and I give it like as an example. If I put you on the line and I say like, we're going to do this drill and let me teach you how to shoot better. right? So I'll watch you shoot and then I'll give you some advice. But then I put you on the clock, you're going to revert back to what you know, not the new thing that's actually probably going to help you. So how can I trick your ego and drop that, have some humility, because your ego blocks your ability to learn. Like if you read Carol Dweck, she talks about this, right? And how can I bypass that in order to get somebody to learn? So like in the service, we have many egos. And at some point, they're flared up so much that you can't learn anything new. So the book is basically about learning, having this humility and to be able to become a better person in order to accomplish this. And I just talk about, like, again, it's like my adventures through the service, whether it's operationally training, being on CAT, talking to whoever it is that I talk to, like all these kids that are coming. My problems that I had, I was just like the brash, immature kid when I was growing up. It took me like falling from grace and figuring out how to climb out of that hole to become stronger, right? And that we don't want to admit the truth to each other. That's a big part of that's in there. We don't talk about our mortality. Everybody thinks they'll live forever, right? It's just all that stuff is in the book, and it's those are the things that are important to me at this point in my life.
Yeah.
It's what I teach my kid.
Yeah. Do you have the mindset of, is this something that you really want to focus on anybody who's in your specific profession as like, here's a guidebook, or is this really
Any human on the planet?
any human on the planet?
Yeah. Where I grew up is around, like I say, I grew up in the service, is in special operations. So I grew up not just around cat guys, but around a whole bunch of SWAT, military, special operations, NSW, whatever, right? I like that, right? It's applied to all that too, but it applies to like my kid. We talk about the lessons in life, right? She talks about the issues that she has at school, and we're like, what's important to you, right? And you can, right? What does somebody say? Like, tactics are amateurs talk tactics, right? Professionals talk logistics and planning, right? And the planning is not just for like whatever mission that you have. The planning is like for everything that you do, every step of the way that you take is like, how do you plan your life? And as your journey through this, all these planning, you just keep planning and executing and planning and executing and planning and executing. That journey makes you so strong. Instead of just talking about, how many people do you know that they're big, strong, and fast, but you would never choose them to make a room entry with you, right?
Yeah.
It's because they're just weak upstairs.
Yeah.
They don't get it, right? And it's like, how can we make those people strong? Because we could teach a monkey how to shoot sufficiently enough to put him on the team. It's like, we want that guy that's strong upstairs.
Yeah.
Right. Just like it, and that's the rest of my life. I want my kid, like she's tough, man. And I'll talk about her real fast. She had an incident at school, and she goes to jiu-jitsu and stuff too. She's 11, right? I love her. She's tapped out many boys. Yeah. She got into a scuffle at school. We got a phone call, and they're like, hey, your kid put hands on somebody. So my wife's on the phone, and I was like, what'd you do? She's like, girl was scratching me. So I took her down. I was like, did you hurt her? She's like, no, I just guided her down on the grass and I just backed away. I was like, oh, you controlled fall? She's like, yeah. Right. And what happened to the girl? She's like, you're just confused. Just look at me. And I was like, what did you do then? She's like, I just stood there. I backed away. Just told her to stay away. And I was like, good job.
Yeah.
And it wasn't worth it to her. Mm-hmm. And then later she tells me that the girl tried to hit her with a binder. And my daughter was just sidestepping her, just staying away. I was like, why didn't you do anything? She's like, not worth it.
Yeah.
That restraint that she knows that she could probably just like throw the girl out the window is what I want for people. Like, you need to be this strong person that's formidable and capable, and you use it when you need to.
Mm.
That's what I believe. That's like the point of like my teaching, like how I teach these guys. And that's what CAT is, right? We're not the aggressors, but fuck around and find out. Right? That's kind of like, that's what I tell like whoever else. Right? Like felt not seen, fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where the guy should endeavor to. It's kind of like what I believe in, like how you should live your life.
Yeah.
So
I'm curious too. Like you guys essentially try and plan for the worst case scenario
true.
all the time. Do you have any issues or residual effects that bleed over into your personal life from maintaining this mindset,
For sure.
constantly looking at the worst case scenario?
For sure. Guys can't shut it off.
Yeah.
Right.
And how do you deal with that?
Man, there's like, is people go down these rabbit holes, and I'm sure like, and it's not, I'm sure, I know the military is the same way, but like in the service too, like the difference between the military and where we are is we are in the civilian world.
Yeah.
Right. Like it is, you're walking around the civilian world, and this mindset, a lot of times I see all different kinds of different mindsets. Some guys will just, once they're done with their shift, they're no longer Secret Service agents. They go home and their dads and then their moms and they're like whatever they are, and they live their lives, and that's fine. They kind of probably are not attached to it. If their identity is not the service, probably, and they're probably not the people who are like the innovators and the people like the leaders who are trying to, or the quote leaders, right? We talk about what I think a leader is. That's not everybody. But the people who are like the type A, specifically, we'll talk about like CAT, right? 'Cause again, I grew up in CAT, mostly in the service. Those guys go home and all they think about is guns, shooting, optics, physical fitness, jiu-jitsu, mission planning, liaison with other units to train, next assignment, learn, right? Like they're talking about communications. They're redoing their kit all the time on their own, right? They're spending their own money buying all this other stuff. And at some point they forget their home life, right? And then that affects us tremendously. It's like, so this to me all relates for not being strong upstairs and understanding what your priorities are. And it took me a long time to learn that, right? Like, again, I will talk about, like, I want to talk about all the stupid shit I've done over the years, man. Like, we need another 6 or 7 hours, right? So, but like it's, they have a hard time turning it off. That's why you see a lot of this, like these alcohol related problems, right? You see substance abuse and gambling and like womanizing and it's just a whole bunch of stuff that these things are ways for them to either decompress, validate themselves, anger management, whatever it might be, because they can't let go of whatever it is that the job, right? And to have that outlet, and I write about this too in the book, it's basically your identity, and your identity is tied to that job, right?
Yeah.
And like my identity, when I stopped being a cat guy, it was like ripped out of me like overnight, and it just plunged me into this like, because it's all I thought about every day, and I would just obsess about tactics. I'd go into a place, the first thing I'd look at, like, where are the exits? Now it's like PTSD for me. I look at the exits so I can leave and go home, right? Because I want to go home. I got in trouble at some point, and I remember I was so, I could talk about this, right?
Yeah.
Like this is like, I was in a bad place, right? And I was so depressed. I drank every day. I never drank, right? I wasn't a drinker. I'm not a good drinker, man. Like, right? Like, but I would drink, and I'd have like, by 10 o'clock in the morning, I was done. I was inebriated, and it was just to mute the pain.
Yeah.
Right? Because I didn't know how to deal with it. And the only reason I sobered up is 'cause I had to pick up my kid at the end of the day from the bus stop. And like it was like probably the worst time of my life. Right? And I was like, it was a really bad time. I never want anybody to feel like that. But that identity that I had, like that, I was that cat. It was ripped out of me overnight. It was empty then.
Yeah.
I replaced it with all this bad shit.
Yeah.
Everybody that goes home, there's a lot of people that feel like that to varying levels. It could be not as extreme as that, right? And everybody treats everything differently. Right? Like, so a death for you might be different than it is for me, right? And it took a long time for me to understand that wasn't my identity. I don't have to go home and think about this shit all day and all night. And we don't have a process to teach people that, right? It's like, it is very difficult. And that's not just something unique to CAT or the service. That's like a worldwide thing. How many people just go home and their jobs are all that got. Luckily, I had a government job, it is very difficult to fire me, right?
Yeah.
I'm joking. It's not
Like super difficult,
but it's more difficult than it is in the private sector. So like I'm lucky, right? But how people deal with it, they don't know how to deal with it, and they do things thinking that if they show any kind of weakness, it is making them weak, and it somehow affects their careers or their lives. And there is too much of that in the service. They don't want to talk. They don't want to say like, I'm going to therapy with my wife because we're trying to fix our marriage. Instead of doing that, they won't do it from fear that they're going to lose their job, from fear that if they report that, they'll have their clearance taken away.
Yeah.
Right?
Which goes against integrity.
It's a whole thing. And I don't know if I was prepared to talk about it, but it's like the worst thing I ever did in my life is like when I got in trouble, my bosses were berating me, calling me stupid. And I just got up and told them to go fuck themselves. And I walked out. I didn't say fuck. I said, go to hell. And I walked out. Right. It was the worst thing I ever did for my career. The best thing I ever did for my life. I had my integrity that day. I didn't handle it the way I should have. Like, you don't get up and be explosive. I apologize. Even like right now, I apologize to them. But it doesn't matter. The damage was done already, and I just walked out. But I knew who I was and what I stood for. And it took me a long time to climb out of that hole. Right. And I was good at my job. I was a good cat guy. Right. And I did a lot for that program, man. Like, and I felt like I was betrayed. I was dumb for thinking that, because again, it's like the government. You were in the government. When they're done with you, they're done with you, dude. Doesn't matter how good you were or anything like that. Like, we're all zeros in the end of the day. It's the impacts that you have on your people around you. So I'm just talking from a place of experience with that. I took that job home and it became everything. And when it was taken away from me, man, like, it was like your life was over. It's not. In fact, it's like the opposite, right? Like, I'm retired. Bro, it's like the greatest feeling in the world.
Yeah.
Just not being owned by the government. Yeah. And now I could do whatever I want.
Yeah. And
it's like I don't even know what to do, right? Yeah. Go for a walk in my underwear. That's probably a bad idea, right? It's like, but that is a huge problem in the service. Yeah. And then there's programs that are in there. We got to do better about marketing them. But again, people are afraid to lose their jobs, man. There's a service, you have to be perfect. If you're not perfect, so your career is pretty much scuttled before it even starts.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people too don't understand the physical impacts that can happen on your mind when you do anything repetitively, right? I was just talking about the process of going from consciously incompetent to unconsciously competent in a task, right? And when you do something for long enough, your thought pattern, your processes in your brain actually change, like physical grooves into your brain, to where you're unconsciously going to be repeating that because your body's a smart machine that figures out what it needs to do on a regular basis. And you're talking about planning and logistics. Planning is thinking. It's thinking about data on previous engagements and what you need to do in the future, and then you go and you move logistics, you do the thing that you're thinking about, right? And then all of a sudden you're ripped out of that piece to where you're doing the logistics, you're doing the movement, but your brain is still going to do all of the thinking, right? All of that firing that's happening in your brain and your thinking, like your brain's not going to stop doing that because you're not physically moving anymore and doing the logistical piece of your mission set. And so understanding that that is going to happen, one, and then two, what the fuck are you going to do in order to mitigate the fact that that's going to be happening in your brain without you saying, this is what I want to do or I don't want it to do. You're unconsciously going to continue down that track. And it becomes fucking overwhelming is what happens if you don't have the shift of where you're going to put. Like, I'm sure writing a book has been extremely cathartic for you because you just shift everything over into dumping that.
It's cathartic and emotional, man. Like, because like, you relive all that stuff. But just like you're saying, you're holding on to it. I still do all that stuff. I'm still a cat guy. Like, I look at my backpack. I have a trauma kit in there. I have like eye protection, ear protection in there. There's flex cuffs. I could see them right there, right? I'm still a cat guy. I still have that. It's in my truck all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And I still know what I'm doing. Just my identity is not tied to the service. My identity is me. I'm the one that makes me dangerous. There are no dangerous weapons, only dangerous men. Robert Heinlein, right? Like, and it's like, you're dangerous. The goodness is in you. You're not tied to the government. You're tied to you. You're the one that makes you, like, formidable. Then you put 6 of those guys together, and I wouldn't want to be go against those guys, right? And it's like, that's what I had to learn. My identity was tied to that place.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, still plan, still do all that stuff. Be great. Go out in the world and be great. Just don't tie it to one thing where when that's gone, it's like, now what? Right. Because somebody's like, oh, what are you going to do about, I'm old now, right? It's like, if you go into competition and you fight a young guy, what are you going to do if I just grab you and do this, right? What are you going to do when you have to fight a 25-year-old MMA guy? I was like, I don't have to fight a 25-year-old MMA guy. I just wake him up in the middle of the night with a suppressor pressed up against his head and tell him it's time to go.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't have to fight him. Just have to be smart about it.
Well, yeah,
so it's like my ego. Let me
yeah.
check my ego aside. And it's like it's like you have to be smart. Just understand your limitations, what you're capable of, and then apply it. Have a plan.
That's a really good point, man. It's like in these, because so much of this is theory, right? What could potentially happen? How do you deal with the situation when it arises?
You can only control you.
Right. And what, as you get older, we start to lose our physical capabilities. So our mind has to make up for that. Exactly what you're saying, right? Like, I'm not going to fight him hand to hand. I'm going to wake him up in the middle of the night with a suppressor forced to his head.
It's a joke, but
yeah. Well, you're fighting with your mind, right? You're taking the situation and you're putting it in your control, right? What have you done to develop that mindset within yourself? As you get older, you have to shift the way that you're thinking. Have you consciously done that, or is that something that has kind of naturally evolved, or did you feel those?
I purposely, I have a plan. Some of my life, right? It's like I'm a big planner right now. So just leading up, again, and a lot of it was when I checked my ego and my humility. It opened up this whole part of me that I started learning at this like accelerated rate that I was like, man, like I wish I was like this before.
Mm. So, in what way specifically?
It's like in my ego. I had an ego where it like kind of retarded my ability to learn as fast as I could have. Right? This is like, it's like, because I know better. No, and I know better. Like, I know better. I'm smart. Blah blah blah. I can figure it out. Right? And I did figure a lot of stuff out. But once I realized that I was just a zero in this world, it's like a speck of like a dust, just like everybody else. and just quieted my ego, I started learning like so fast. So I wrestled for a long time, and I stopped wrestling. I started doing jiu-jitsu, and like I pick it up quick as an old man, right? And I'm able to hold my own against young kids. Probably like I say that with some level of humility too, right? Like, and I just constantly like, show me this, show me this, show me, like, I'm just not going to stop. And like learning languages, right? I'm just sitting down and I just study. I read books all the time now. I have my book that I'm reading right now in my bag, and it's like, I don't stop. I plan my business, right? Before I retired, I had a live business, build a website, writing my book, planning for my daughter's future, planning for my wife's future, financially stable, my fitness, my nutrition, my kids' nutrition, my kids, right? And it's like just constantly just building off, and I call it leveling up. You just keep leveling your stuff up. And I look at things as like, is this a constructive behavior or a destructive behavior? Is it a constructive, right? And I purposely have goals. The jiu-jitsu for me is like a new path. It's a new thing for me. I know I wrestled for 100 years, and like it's a little bit like cheating when I go. It's like when I decide to just like, all right, just like, let's get on our feet and let's just like, all right, because it is like cheating. But at the same, until I fight another wrestler, and then it's like, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, this guy also drank from the water, but like, but it is like, I have a plan for everything now. I plan ahead. The only things I do sporadically is like when I want to take my wife out. It's like, what do you want to do? Right? She was like, I don't feel good. I'm like, let me take you to, right? Let me take you to this place so I could be a better husband.
Yeah.
Right. My daughter is surprised. I plan, like, my planning and my ability to learn has gotten so much better, so much. And now I look and to tell myself the truth of the things that I do poorly and to make those weaknesses strengths. That's how you build that mindset. And then when you do something good for yourself, don't tell anybody. You do something good in this world. You go out and you save some kid's life. You don't have to tell anybody. You tell your wife. That's about it. Right? Because that feedback loop goes back to you. How many times you do something good and then I come over and be like, hey man, good job. I pat you on the shoulder. I'm your supervisor. That's even worse. Good job. And now you want those accolades from me. So you just work hard and you learn that your self-esteem comes from me, comes from like the other boss. And your peers are like, yeah, you did a great job. And you're patting you on the shoulder. You're like, I'm going to do a great job so everybody can think I'm doing a great job.
Yeah.
Right. So it's fake.
Yeah.
It's all fake.
I think you need to shuck that as a man as early as you possibly can anyway, as far as expecting
But your self-worth,
accolades. Yeah.
I call self-esteem as like esteem, like your esteem is like what people think about you, right? I think that's bullshit. If you're a good person, they'll think highly of you. Self-worth is something that only you know. You're the only one that knows your self-worth. Right? You could tell me what it is, but maybe you're lying. And when you do stuff and you don't tell anybody, you learn fitness, you read, you educate yourself for yourself, right? It's more for yourself. It's more the stuff that you do for you, that you become this strong monster. You don't say anything, right? I call it like nobody knows shit that you do in the dark, right? Isolate yourself, become strong, come back out. And they're like, oh my God, like, you look different. You're standing different. Like, something's different about you. And like, I don't like it. Like, like settle down a little bit. But you did something in the dark, come back out. And you're like, hey, how are you today? Because you're not even going to care what everybody thinks anymore.
Yeah.
Right? And you become this monster slowly. And it's like you do it all. And that's how you build your mindset. That's how you become strong. Like, I'm stronger today, probably physically, right? Also, not so fast anymore, but like, all right, but physically, but my mind specifically, because of like this planning, because of the ability to do that. Nobody knows what I do in the dark. They're all asking me, like I say this, I'm not thing, but like, I'll say it to you, like, just edit out. Like, they were asking me what I'm going to do afterwards. I don't say anything to anybody. I'm like, well, we'll see. Right. And it's like, man, it's the best feeling in the world to just I don't need to answer to anybody. Yeah. I love them all. Right? I do. I love all my guys. I love them all. And they're all expecting me to be like run for president or something, right? Because they love me too, right? But that's how you build your mindset. That's what the book is. Yes, right. That's really like what I'd like to talk about more when I like leave that place.
Yeah.
Right. Because there's so much like just people are suffering because they don't know how to get out of that.
Mm. Yeah. I think that if you wrap that up and you could transfer that into service, law enforcement, first responder as a means and tool to fucking approach any sort of transitional period in your life. And will you get granular on, like when you're talking about your planning or you're a big planner, is there a specific system that you use when it's like, okay, I'm planning X out and you're saying you've got to just use the example you just said, nutrition, daughter, whatever. How are you working through a system of planning with those? Like, are you in a notebook and you have like, here's my mission statement, and then you break it down into whatever? Is there a specific thing that you use that's worked for you?
Yeah. And so first of all, I write every day. That's just for me to throw my thoughts down on a page and be like, what's going on right now? Right. More importantly, like, I put all these things in the book where like I apply these things in my life. And a lot of it starts just from, I stop to tell myself the truth. Like, what are you doing right now? Right. All right. We have a problem with one of the dogs, but he just got a puppy, and the puppy is like not so good, stubborn. Right. I have an older shepherd. The guy's the best. He could probably drive my truck. Right. That dog is awesome. He spoiled us. Right. Now the puppy is a pain in the ass. Cute as hell. Pain in the ass. My wife's like, why are we putting it back in the crate? It's like, first of all, it's a puppy. All right. If we understand, you're getting mad at it, but it's a puppy. We're putting it in the crate so it can understand that that's where it lives and it doesn't have free reign in the house. It's got to listen. We only release it to eat so it knows that we're in charge. We don't let it eat. Put it in there for it. And she's like, yeah, but the shepherd learns so fast. It's not a shepherd, right? It's like, what's the truth about this? I don't talk about it because they're talking about it like on the way over here, right? And it's like, tell yourself the truth first. It's like, okay, it needs more time. Creating needs more time now, right? It's the truth. Like, how are we going to troubleshoot this? So it's always the truth. Always like, hey, what is our goal here? What is our goal here is like a huge thing. Every time they hate me at work because we'll go into a meeting and they'll start talking about stuff. Secret Service meetings are awesome. Secret Service meetings are like, we're going to go in there. We're going to talk about a bunch of rumors that exist. We're going to start a bunch of new rumors. We'll make one personnel decision, which will go into effect 6 months from now. And then we go to lunch. Those are Secret Service meetings. Those are my team leader meetings when I was on CAT. It was a joke. I'd go in there and be like, what rumors are we talking about today? All right, this is some rumors. So, I'd sit there and be like, what's our goal today? Why are we here? You're wasting my time. I can go shoot my guns and train my guys, right? What are we doing today? All right, what's our goal here? So I'd sit down sometimes and it'd stop and the boss would be like, all right, it's like, I got to tell John what the goal of the day is. And I'll be like, yeah, man, I'm stupid. I don't know what the goal is, right? So
I fucking love that, by the way.
So like to say like, what's the goal here? To stop the puppy from shitting in the house. Okay, gotta crate her more. It's got a crate training. We can still love her and play with her, but it's crate training, right? And it's like, for me, it's like, what's the goal? And the goal for me was to replace my identity with all this other shit. So if I get hurt in jiu-jitsu, I got something else to go to. If my computer blows up and I don't have my book, I have backups, right? And I can just catch up. If I lose my book that I'm reading now, I got like 30 other ones that I want to read that are sitting there, right? Because I read as a hobby. Play chess, do this, do that, all this constructive shit that like, it's like, it's not just one thing. So when you say like what my plan is to do that, it's tell yourself the truth, what's our goal here? This is all in the book, right? Like it's what's our goal here, right? And then you have to take action at some point, right? It's time to shine, man. You got to do it. It's okay if you fall on your face. Now you got to action it. Got to get up, go back to the beginning, start all over, right? And then as you incrementally just keep, all right, tell yourself the truth. Did you do that well? No, that sucked. Oh, no man wants to hear that.
Yeah.
It sucks, right? Like, it's like, oh man, you were bad at that. I made a brisket one time. My dog didn't even eat it. He was like, no. All right, man. And my wife was like, you're not ever gonna make this again, right? I was like, yeah, I'll try. Right? I had to. Now it's like, she's like, make a brisket.
Yeah.
Okay, right. I'll make. I gotta go get one, right? But like, and that she's like, is it gonna be good? I'm like, oh yeah, like we got this, right? That was like 20 briskets in, right? So it's like, but if I just stopped right in the beginning, I'd just be going to Chad's to pick up a brisket and just bring it home. Be like, here you go, Darren. And it's like, you got to tell yourself the truth, man. The truth hurts. It's like the worst, right? But if you get used to that, hey man, like right now, I told myself the truth about some stuff. I have some stuff I want to work on, and I will. And now it's like my ego is quieted enough that I can just go into this pattern. It just keeps hitting on it. And I just get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. A year from now, I'll look back and just be like, remember that guy? Like, I'm much better than that guy.
Yeah.
Right. And the truth, have a goal. Right. And if you mess up, it's okay, man. That was the hardest thing on Cat, try to bypass these kids' egos.
Yeah.
So I had this trick that I did. I actually talk about it too, right? Like, and I taught them like rifle marksmanship, but then when I put them on the clock, they would all revert back to their old habits. So I'm like, yeah, pieces of shit, right? So I'm like, all right, we're gonna shoot the course of fire, and we practiced on a bullseye target that was 8 inches wide. I was like, but you're just gonna use the bullseye target, no score. Or we're gonna shoot the course of fire, but no score. But practice the shit that I told you, right? So it'd be on the line, and I'm like kicking their foot forward. I'm like, hey, trigger, sight, hold it, knee, this, that, transition, right? Safety. And they all listened. I was like, all right, flip the targets over. And they flipped targets over, and the actual target was silhouetted on the back side of the target. And I scored them all. They all were awesome. I was like, you see what happens when you pay attention to what you're doing? Right? Because I had to trick them. I had to trick them to drop their egos.
Yeah.
In order to get them to do the stuff that I want them to do, to show them that it works. Right? And after that, they're like, you sold them. They're like, I got to do this. I got to, like, right? Because your ego doesn't let you. Do you ever hear the guy, like, there's a bunch of them. There's surgeons and they have Tourette's. They're like neurosurgeons and heart surgeons. They have Tourette's. Right? They have Tourette's, and I'm researching this now, so I don't know the names offhand. But when they do surgery, they're still and they're calm. Right? It's because the neural pathway of anger and the neural pathway of focus and learning is the same. And when one is shut off, the other one exists. Right? So your ego, when you get angry at something, you refuse to learn, it's the same neural pathway. This is what I'm reading now, right? And it's fascinating to me. And I'm like, oh my God, that's literally what happens when I do this crap to these kids. And these are the things that, like, and I've always been good at, like, learning that stuff and then applying it somehow to real life. And these are the kind of like the lessons, and like from my perspective as an instructor or a leader, it's like, how do I get through these guys? How do I get through this kid? So now I do that to myself, right? Like ego and all that stuff. Because off catch, my wife was like, yeah, you're out of control right now. I'm like, oh crap, I gotta go sit down. It's like, I kind of lost my temper here, and I kind of just, right, and I got to do it to myself, and I got to apologize and have a conversation with my daughter, and then I got to buy her more Squishimals, and they'll fit in her bed, and that's a whole thing, right?
Dude, that's so interesting, the neural pathway thing.
I keep researching it. It was fascinating to me when I read that.
Yeah. Because you need a real life instance to like know that's true, right? We're the surgeons with Tourette's. Like, how can you do this?
I was very innovative, so like an innovation and outside the box thinking doesn't really go well in the government, right? So I pissed off a lot of people. A lot of times I thought I was doing something wrong, but I would just keep pushing the envelope on things. And I have a lot of stories like that, and just applying stuff like that. I was good at it. I was good at applying like a new method. I would steal stuff from somewhere and then just apply it to us. That's really what we are. Like, we're all thieves.
Yeah.
From the beginning of time.
Yeah.
Right. And like thieves of knowledge, right?
Mhm.
Just keep going. And these are the these are the kind of things that like I kind of like really focus on right now. And it's given me this whole, unlocked a whole new world of learning that I didn't like into, that I'm just like a baby and trying to figure out, like, and what exactly it is that makes a human, a human, right? And I talk about a whole bunch of things that's like, I had a conversation with my friend about demons, right? I was like, oh, cool. Because you believe in demons? He goes, no. He thinks I'm thinking like some like, ethereal entity that beams out of hell. It's sitting on your shoulder whispering. And I was like, okay. I'm like, they're real. And he was like, starts laughing at me, right? I go, when was the last time that you ate something that you shouldn't have? And just looks at him. When was the last time, all right, that you yelled at somebody for no reason, that you had road rage? When was the last time you looked at porn? When was the last time you hit somebody that didn't deserve it? When was the last time, right? And I just heard it just get worse and worse and worse. Like, you did one of those things. Like, did some like mystical entity whisper into your ear to make you do it? All right. No, you chose to do it. Something inside you told you to do it for whatever reason. That's what I call a demon. That voice, that's you. Whether it's like from hell, or whether it just came out of you, doesn't matter. It's a real voice. That's like demons. So that's what I call demons. And you got to be good at identifying them. You're like, you go to grab a thing of whiskey. I don't know if you drink that kind of stuff, right? You drink bourbon and you've already had half the bottle. And you're like, just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. How many cat guys are involved in alcohol-related instances that were in the media and the news? Did a demon make them do it? No, they chose to do that. But they had the idea on their head somehow to not stop. They couldn't figure out how to stop.
Yeah.
That's what that stuff is. Like, and for you to be able to identify it, be like, I called somebody's son before I left. I was like, son, I think we need to stop here, right? And the first thing from that was like that I was really old because I called him son. And the second thing from that is they looked at me. It's like, how much worse can this have gotten? Because the warning signs before you fall are always there. Like, for me, the warning signs were there. I'd ignored them. If I listened to them, I wouldn't have gone down this weird path, right? The warning signs for some of these kids were there, right? It's like one instance. He was at training and a kid did something catastrophic and laughed about it because he didn't listen and he did something stupid, and goes on and continues, and his ego just gets bigger and bigger. Like, I'm immortal, man. I can drink as much as I want.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the big thing happens, and now you're like, now what?
Yeah. I think the thing that I've struggled with, a lot of people also, it's after the seal's been broke and you've already started. Because for me, my solution is more just don't even start. Like, that's where I struggle. It's like with things, with vices, after the seal's been broke, I'm already doing it. Harm's already been done. What do you stop?
How much worse can it get?
Yeah. And so I just like don't ever start, right? Like a lot of people, Peter was asking me, he's like, do you drink? I was like, once in a while, but not really. Not really.
Right.
Not really. Not anymore. Because I know. Break that seal, you know, and then it fucking snowballs. So that's kind of the, you have to develop these own mindsets to figure yourself out. And we'll probably go last question here as somebody's ripping on the vert ram behind us. But what do you suggest and what's your mindset when you're like getting out of that cycle after the seal's been broken?
You have to realize that it's happening, first of all.
Yeah. Which goes back to the truth, right? Right in the truth.
Most people don't realize that it's happening. And I hate to break it to you, but you're not strong at that point. All you got to do is survive it. And once you survive it, tell yourself the truth and build yourself back up. The reason that you're in that mess is not because you were strong, right? I'm talking about like extreme things now, not like black swan events. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about like, right, something like you're just living your life and something bad happens, right? But the earth opens up and you crash your car into the earth, right? We're talking about like you going down this, you're doing it to yourself. You're doing these destructive behaviors to yourself. Like you don't even realize you're doing it. Once you realize you're doing it and you're in that hell, that's what it is. You have to survive. That's all it is. And you just got to survive and get to the end of it and tell yourself the truth. Now you can start building yourself back up. That's the best news about it. Doesn't matter where you are. You can start building yourself back up. You just got to want to do that.
Yeah.
Don't give up. You got to survive. It's like Winston Churchill. If you're going through hell,
Keep on going.
keep going. Right?
Yeah.
So that's like there's a lot to it, and it's not black and white.
Yeah. I think you're right there. I'm on the same track. I'm a big writer too, and journaler, and that's so good because I think our personality types want to be self-resilient. Like we don't want to go and fucking air our dirty shit to other people, right? Like we want to be able to handle everything on our own, and that journaling, as elementary as it sounds of an activity, is like one of the fucking best things that you can do. Like if you fucking journal in PT every single day of your life, like you're probably going to figure your shit out. You're probably going to fucking live a pretty good existence.
It's taking action into your life.
Yeah.
Those just alone, those two things.
Because if you're taking the time to sit down to do that and you're shutting everything out and you're like, all right, I'm just going to fucking look at this blank page and fill it up. You're not going to bullshit yourself in those moments when you're like taking the time to do that, right? Like you're committing towards this activity of being honest, and you know nobody's going to see this. So like, what's the fucking point of bullshitting yourself on this specific thing? And that release triggers something else that allows you to. It's the same thing when people say they got their monkey on the back, or like you get it off your chest, you feel lighter. It's kind of spiritual in a sense because you're externalizing what's going on with yourself.
It's all spiritual.
And you can't solve a problem unless you know what the problem is. And so that method and means, fuck man, I think that should be like, it should be taught.
It's my course.
It should be fucking taught to everybody because it's so simple. Like, yes, life is complicated, but we need to start with simple things. And that is a fucking super simple thing.
You need your North Star.
Yeah.
Right? Most people just wander around in the dark.
Yeah.
Right? And they can just like, well, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just going to like, let me just kind of fester.
Yeah. Yeah.
Black Rifle Coffee, baby. Pretty cool.